Before we get to the interview, everybody, I just want to let you know I'm Dave Bondy, independent journalist. Please help support my independent journalism and click the link down below to join my Substack or my locals community. It's only $5 a month. You can quit at any time. I left the mainstream media in order to keep it real. So you are having a huge impact on social media, and people may not know your face. They might know your name. But tell me a little bit about yourself. You're in Port Huron. Would I call you a community activist, as they say?
Yeah, the community activists, gadfly, rabble rouser, huge pain in the ass. They throw a lot of terms around depending on what side of the fence you're on with me.
So over the years, have you just been interested in government or school boards, or always just interested in kind of what's going on behind the scenes? I mean, as a reporter, I always did, and I always dug to find stuff, and there was always stuff being hidden, and not everything always got out there. Did you always just you were inquisitive about that kind of thing?
Actually, for me, it started about 9 years ago with a custody case that I'm still dealing with, my personal custody case. And I realized there were some issues going on there. And so I started Googling some names together of some judges and attorneys. And I realized we had an issue going on locally. And the more I started digging, the more I started realizing that the problem was a lot bigger than just what I had going on in my custody case. It really, was the whole county and just this huge culture of corruption that had been created there.
Yeah, and that's something that happens everywhere, but especially in Michigan. So that led you to, over the years, would you go to council meetings, school board meetings? I know you have, but in the beginning, how did it evolve, your interest in accountability, really?
Yeah. So, like I said, it started out with the judiciary and with our local with the law firm that's actually on the other side of my SCOTUS case, Fletcher Falco Shouty Francis. I just realized, they're the city attorney, the county attorney. They represent the judges, and I started realizing that there's a lot of conflicts of interest going on. So I started going to these meetings and started looking into a lot of our public officials and public figures, and realized that we had some problems.
Okay, so did things ramp up? When did did that change things at all, or no?
Well, so that's kind of where this whole case with Mr. Freed, with James Freed, the city manager, began. Obviously, we were all stuck at home once COVID hit. Nobody knew what was going on. It was the first, this was unprecedented in our time.
Yeah.
And so obviously everybody was at home, and things started happening. And Mr. Freed was using social media quite a bit, to talk about things going on, that the city's response and stuff of that nature. And so I made some comments on some of his posts. And
For the people who don't know, Pontiac city manager.
Port Huron city manager.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We're talking about Pontiac. Port Huron city manager. Okay. So he had a social media account that he was posting stuff about the community, the city.
Yeah, correct. He's taking the position it was his personal account, which I don't disagree with. It was started back in college, he says, and he used it for personal stuff. He said at some point it grew too large. He hit the 5,000 limit, 5,000 friend limit, had to convert it to like an actual page instead of just like a professional page. It was more, or a personal page. It was more of a business type page. And, but then once COVID hit, he started just talking about the city's response. And when you went on the page, it had, like, I think, dad to Lucy, husband to Jesse, and then city manager Port Huron. But he had the city's email, the city's phone number, the city's city hall's address. The appearance of the page looked official, but he still was using it for personal stuff.
So the average person would probably think, hey, this is his page. This is his official page, because it's hard to know. The average person, like for myself, I have a fan page as Dave Bondy, but I also have a private page for family and friends or so forth. But the average person would look at that and like, okay, that's his page. That's where we're getting our government info from.
For sure. And, SCOTUS has looked at it now, and they've kind of labeled it a mixed use page, that you're doing personal stuff and you're doing, official stuff on there. And so it becomes this mixed use page. And they have warned a lot of public officials, if you're going to have that type of a page, you better be very careful.
Okay, so were you, and I'll be honest, were you going after him on social media? Were you swearing at him, or were you respectful, or what was your content at, like, in the comments that you would do?
Well, like we were talking about, I'm wrapped up in a lot of litigation, so I understand if you put things in black and white, they may be read by a judge at some point.
Yeah.
And so when I made the comments, they were very respectful. There was no swearing, no name calling. It was just, your response to this has been, or the city's response has been abysmal. Do better. There was a post that he had made. Him and the mayor were out at a local restaurant, which is it's a nice restaurant. It's a little more expensive than some other restaurants. Not crazy expensive, but a little spendy. And he made a post about him and the mayor were grabbing lunch there. And I just responded, while the city and all the residents are trying to figure out what they're going to do and how they're going to pay their rent and put food on their table, because this was right when everybody got sent home and there was no unemployment. I said, while you're out at this restaurant doing this, everyone at home is trying to figure out how they're going to put food on their table, and I don't think it's right. I didn't agree with the way they were responding to the pandemic.
Okay, so you didn't say, "Hey, mother effer, mother this," because those people exist, obviously, on social media. Because you knew what you put in writing. So did he not like that response? I guess, obviously, or your
Yeah,
comment?
it's funny because in all of their pleadings, he talks about how he blocked me because I'm this guy in the community, and he calls me a bunch of names and some different stuff. But what he doesn't explain is the 5 other people that we deposed in this case that he had blocked and deleted comments, and the dozens of people and the hundreds of people he had done the last 5-10 years that he's been our city manager. He tried to make it seem like this was a one-off thing with me, when in reality he just any critic that he didn't like, he deleted and blocked them.
Okay, and obviously, he is not here, and I'm taking what you're saying. I don't know if it's true. He's not here. I haven't talked to him. But when did he block you? Was it that post that got you blocked?
Yeah, so what happened is I used my main profile, my Kevin Lindke profile. I made some comments. He deleted and blocked them. And because I use social media a lot, and I have my Through My Eyes page on Facebook, which I use to talk about a lot of local issues, I have backup Facebook pages so I can see some things, and whatever. So I started using 2 of my backup pages. Well, he deleted and blocked those comments too. And I think one of them was like, you shouldn't have blocked Kevin Linke. I'll have, the attorney send you a letter of why that was a bad idea. And so then he deleted and blocked those too.
So at what point did it become a legal issue, or did you have a lawyer at that point, or reach out to someone and say, "Hey, is this legal?" Because
So
really,
I
I don't know if that's been tested. I know it's always been talked about, but I don't know. Obviously, what point did it go to a legal issue?
Well, this issue first came up, if you remember, the Knight v. Trump case, when President Trump was using Twitter and all that, and so that this issue was,
Yeah.
it's come up before, but based on what the Second Circuit did, and then when it got to SCOTUS, because President Trump didn't win his reelection, they just said it was a moot issue, so it kind of went away, and now, me and Mr. Freed's conflict came up, and SCOTUS got to revisit this.
Now, did they say, or was with Trump? Did they say that he wasn't allowed to block people, or or what was? I forgot what that was, or the
So
case.
actually, yeah, Trump lost at the trial level on that. It went to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. They again said you can't do it. And SCOTUS most likely, had they addressed Trump's case, they probably would have ruled against President Trump themselves.
Okay. And so where do we stand? Well, the Supreme Court, was it 2 weeks ago when this came down? Or
Yeah, I think so, something like that. About a week and a half, 2 weeks ago.
okay, so getting it to that point wasn't even easy, right? Or give me this step by step. What court did it go to first, and then how did it the line?
So what happened is I got blocked, all that stuff. So I called Phil Ellison up, who we talked about. He's up in your area at outside legal counsel. And me and Phil have a lot of litigation. So I called him, was like, hey, the Port Huron city manager is deleting my comments and blocking me off his page. And Mr. Ellison, I still remember clearly, he was like, want to sue him? I said, yeah, let's do it. So he put together the pleadings. We filed it at the trial court in the Eastern District in Michigan. The judge there, well, then Mr. Freed, he responded to our lawsuit. He filed a motion asking for summary disposition, which basically he was asking the trial court judge to throw our lawsuit out because it was meritless. The judge agreed with him and affirmed his motion for summary, or granted his motion for summary disposition. We then appealed it to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, who affirmed the trial court's decision, throwing our case out. And then once that happened, we started getting contacted from Georgetown Law and Stanford and all these different First Amendment clinics and law firms. And obviously, Alon Keatum from Arnold and Porter. he called us up and we talked with Alon and we looked him up and we're like, yeah, this is our guy. He's clerked for 2 justices. He
Wow.
worked at the Solicitor General's office. He's a pretty heavy hitter. And we were like, yeah, that's our guy. And fortunately, we made the right choice because he got us a 9-0 unanimous decision at SCOTUS.
And what was the decision? The decision was that the headlines are that I see is that government officials can be sued for blocking people. Is that what came? Is that sum it up easy and in no uncertain terms?
Yeah, so basically what SCOTUS came back is they had to put what we had was a circuit split, and this is why my case got picked up. The Second Circuit, Eighth Circuit, and Ninth Circuit, when they were faced with these same issues and the same set of facts, they had ruled a certain way, basically saying appearance matters and stuff of that nature. Well, the Sixth Circuit came back and put their own test in place, which was the duty and authority test, basically saying if state law doesn't say you have to have a social media page, then it's not state action if you post on something, therefore it's not actionable. And because the Sixth Circuit, their decision went against the other 3 circuits, it's what's created as a circuit split. And if you have one circuit and another circuit disagreeing, it's called a shallow split. When you have multiple circuits disagreeing and you have that one outlier circuit like ours, like the Sixth Circuit, it's called a deep split. And SCOTUS they have to reconcile that because you can't have these different decisions going different ways in the federal appellate system.
I'm on locals right now live. Someone asked, "What about school districts?" I guess they mean, for example, what if a city school district starts blocking and banning people? That's the same thing, right? I mean,
So that's what happened out with the Ninth Circuit with our companion case, the Garnier case. That was 2 parents. There was 2 school board members out there that were using their official pages, which they were representing themselves as school board members, talking about official stuff. These 2 parents started spamming them with, they were unhappy with what they were doing. So they started like copy and pasting the same comment like over and over. Like I think the one was like 240 times. But
dang.
those parents sued, and they actually won out there because of the appearance that the school board members used, that they were purporting to use it as school board members. So,
What
and
about
so
was it their page, for example? Let's say Port Huron Public Schools, the page itself. They can't block people. Well, they could be sued now if they did, like not individuals, but the government agency. Like let's say Port Huron Schools, they can't do it. It's the same as a person versus an entity, right? I mean, it doesn't matter.
it is. If we're talking school districts,
Yeah.
police departments, any public body, if they use social media now, or if anybody that works there, and I don't know if it's anybody, but if it's someone that has the authority to speak on that organization or that body's behalf, then goes on social media and speaks about something within their purview and something that is furthering their job duties, that is now considered state action, and that is now actionable with civil litigation if they block you from that.
After the Supreme Court came down with this decision involving you, I started getting messages in Michigan that Jocelyn Benson was unblocking people. Take a look at your screen. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, this on your screen right here. This is what Jocelyn Benson had done to many people. I don't know how many. I shouldn't say many, but some people. Someone who follows me on Twitter, and she said she had this message, and then a week after the Supreme Court decision ruling, she unblocked them, and then a bunch of people saying she unblocked them. I haven't been able to reach out to her office for a comment, but I'm assuming, and I should never assume, but this ruling might be why that happened. I would think. Maybe.
I would think that's a pretty fair assumption based on the timing, of everything. There's really no coincidences, in this kind of stuff. And I think we're going to see, if we haven't already, we're going to see moving forward. This is going to be happening a lot because I just found out. So somebody just sent me they had FOIA requested Macomb County, which is my neighboring county from St. Clair County. And Pete Lucido is the head prosecutor there in Macomb County. He used to be a state rep. And somebody FOIA'd his block list on his Facebook page, his official Facebook page, and my name is actually on that block list, which I found kind of funny because I don't really interact with him a lot, but I must have made a couple negative comments over the last year or two on his page, and he's got me blocked on here. So it's going to be interesting to see if he starts unblocking everybody now that this decision came out.
Wow. And someone's asking questions. Oh, my wife. I want to know what's wrong with these officials. They think it's okay to block people instead of being held responsible. Wow, my wife with a comment. And I mean, and for your case, like you said, there are people out there who hate you. You're probably annoying to many people, but that's not what it's about. And there's a difference between now, if you were to threaten the life of someone, that's a crime. So we're not talking about that. Like a lot of people say free speech. Yes. Now you can't say, government official X, I'm going to do something horrible to you. That's a threat. We're just
Right.
talking about you're commenting, and free speech maybe isn't speech we like all the time either. And you don't have to be polite as a citizen. So I think people sometimes misunderstand, because some might come and say, "Oh, Kevin's a bad, horrible guy," but you still have a right as an American to speak your mind.
Yeah, and it's funny if you listen to Mr. Freed's interviews, that's what he does. He talks about, I'm a convicted felon. I think he called me some other names and some stuff, and he says that because of he doesn't like what I do, or because some in the community considered me to be this like nutty, crazy guy, that he can block me. And it's like, that's not how it works. He made the other argument that he's claiming that I wasn't a resident of the city of Port Huron at the time I was making my comments, and that's really irrelevant. I could live in another state. If I come onto your official page or an official post you made talking about it, you have to listen. There's no requirement that you have to be a resident or, these different things. And he's trying to, how politicians are, they try to spin things and they try to muddy the waters from the real issue, to kind of just make things, a little confusing for the average person.
Now, if people Google your name, they'll find that you were arrested. What were you arrested for?
So if you Google my name, you'll see all kinds of stuff. You'll see
yeah.
You'll see an article where I chased down a stolen car and gave the guy who got his car stolen a new car.
Nice.
I did a huge I do a lot of charity stuff, but then you'll also see a lot of my criminal stuff. The city of Port Huron and the county of St. Clair and the local prosecutor's office, they don't like that I talk about a lot of their bad behavior, and I have a pretty big following locally. So they try to trip me up and try to use their authority as much as they can to try to make me deal with things that I probably shouldn't have to deal with. But when you put a target on your back, you can't be worried that you're going to have some shots taken at you.
The arrest, that had to do with speech, correct? I mean, that wasn't something where you went and just randomly attacked some guy in the street. It was related to a speech.
Yep. The latest one from November, it was at a city council meeting. We have a local issue where one of our local police officers was involved in a young guy by the name of Josh Conant had walked out of the Roach Bar back in November. Something happened. The bouncers jumped on him. Port Huron police officer came and jumped on him, and Josh ultimately passed away from the altercation. There's a lot of stuff going on right now locally with it, but at this last city council meeting back in November, I was there talking about it. And when I got done, I went to leave. The mayor made a comment while I was walking out. The police had the ramp blocked, so I couldn't leave. We ended up getting in a discussion with each other, me and the mayor and me and the lieutenant who arrested me. They ended up charging me with disturbing the peace and arresting me.
I think that video went viral. I saw it on my news feed. Many people probably did as well. It was out there. Some people are asking, what's the difference? Let me bring up a screen share here. Okay, Gretchen Whitmer. This right here, this gray check mark, that is her official government account. Whoever the governor is gets this account right here. If Dave Bondy, it would be Dave Bondy, Governor Dave Bondy or something. I believe that's how it works. This one is her personal account. Now, how does this matter now when it comes to what the Supreme Court said? Can she block people on this one, her personal, or not do it on the government one? How does that work? Do we know?
So basically the official page, the one that comes from the state, that is just the governor's page, nobody can be blocked from that one at all. They can't do it because that's the official page.
No matter what. Yeah.
And now there may be some stuff if they are threatening or doing some crazy stuff, you can do that because it may be outside the protections of the First Amendment. Because, obviously the First Amendment is very broad. There's 4 exceptions, which are defamation, inciting imminent lawless action, fighting words, and there's the 4. I can't think of what the 4th one is, but true threats. True threats is the 4th one.
If someone's messaging that page 5,000 times, obviously there's something going on. But
maybe the 5,000 times the spamming may be okay. I would need a lawyer you may be okay with the spamming, but there may be some instances where you can block from that page. But on her personal page,
yes.
Now her personal page, as long as she doesn't talk about anything official, and this is they're going to have to shape this law a little bit, and they're obviously going to over the next few years because there's going to be challenges. if she's putting anything official on there and it's within her purview and she's trying to further her job duties or something that's required of her, then she can't block anybody from that page. Now, if she's just talking about her job in a general sense where it's just her personal opinions on official stuff, that may be okay. And that's what they're going to have to sort out as we move forward.
Yeah. Well, as I look at this is very political. I mean, this is very endorsing candidates, talking about Joe Biden. Yeah, this is not just, my daughters did this and that. So, and this is just one example. But so this is and I saw an article, I don't have it on the screen now, but the city of Denver, Colorado doing an audit of how they handle social media. Is this a wake-up call then to every governmental agency and official in the country, Democrat or Republican, doesn't matter who you are?
It absolutely is. It's like we talked about before. What I thought was kind of neat about this is, I mean, we now have, because of this case and this new test that's in place, we have some bearing on what the president can do now on social media, and we kind of have influence in all that. It's interesting about Colorado. So when the Sixth Circuit's decision came out with the test they put in place, which at the time it was persuasive, people could rely on it, other circuits and other courts and all that. Colorado passed a whole law. Some legislator introduced some law about social media and public officials be on the block people, and I think they're going to have to rescind that law now based on this, or at least amend it to comport with this new test.
Wow. So what does it feel like? You're a guy from Port Huron, Michigan, and the Supreme Court just ruled on a case that has your name, and your name is going to be around even after you're dead. You're going to be in the history books and the legal books.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. This is now going to be the Lindke test or the Lindke doctrine, or however they refer to it, and it's going to be cited a lot. It's just with what I do with social media and how I use it to go after public officials and public situations and all that locally. It's pretty neat to have this issue make it all the way up to SCOTUS, and then to get the unanimous decision, and to also be the controlling case, because we had the companion case, obviously, out of the Ninth Circuit, but my case was the controlling case, and so now it'll always be known, like I said, as the Lindke test. And so, yeah, it's kind of neat to make that stamp on history.
Does this also prove, because a lot of people feel defeated, people who come to me for stories, they don't want to go on camera, they're scared. Does it show that one person can make a difference? I mean, to me, yes.
Yeah, and this is what my lawyer, my attorney that handled the SCOTUS case, he said, this is vindication for people like me and everyone else that feels that they are being silenced, that look, if you push back, you can prevail. You just got to deal with the blowback sometimes, which, it can be pretty heavy at times. And, but I understand people having some fear on speaking out and doing some things. But, my hope is that, if we keep chipping away at it the way we are, that it just will motivate other people and help other people to get over, any fear they may have on speaking out.
Last thing, overall, what is it about? It's just about, with myself, it's transparency, laying it out there. If you're a governmental agency and you messed up, tell us, lay it out there. What is it about for you? What do you want? Just transparency? Is that what it is? Just be honest, transparent.
Yeah. Transparency, accountability, and now government officials can't hide behind, create a personal page and then talk about official stuff to kind of protect themselves, which they could do when the Sixth Circuit's test came out, is they could insulate themselves. Now they can't do that. Now it's very clear. It's like we were talking before we started here. I said this is a victory for both sides. This is good for public officials. This is good for John Q. Public. We now know what they can do, what they can't do. There's now an avenue available to hold them responsible and to redress our grievances against them, and they can't silence us.
One weird question, and I've heard this is going on in Michigan and other states, but I don't know for sure. A government official, lawmaker, whoever it might be, creating an account but not their name, using a pseudonym or having a fake name, and then going after people on social media. I know it happens. That's harder to prove then. I mean, they're not who they say they are, but there might be a lawmaker, a city council member going under a fake name trying to go after people. I'm sure it happons.
And I think they'll be okay there, because they're doing that personally. If they're not using that fake account to try to further their job or do something official, it gives them, because this is the thing is, Mr. Freed was trying to frame this this gives a lot of protection to public officials now, but it gives a lot of protection also to just regular residents and stuff. And at this point, it's if a government official gets in trouble, it's very easy to protect themselves now. Here it is. This is the two-part test. Here's what you can do. Here's what you can't do. If they can't understand that or they want to push the envelope, they can. But they're going to find themselves in a federal courtroom talking about it.
Yeah, and now they know the rules. And like we said here, it's not Democrat, it's not Republican, it's not independent. It's just now we know. And I think Jocelyn Benson, someone had a talk with her, or she discovered on her own that she's unblocking people. So we're probably going to see maybe more of that. Those discussions are probably being had right now, I'm assuming, in many government offices.
Oh yeah, we're going to see whole policy directives and policy changes, and they're going to, now that the test is in place, they're going to lay this out. We did our so before our SCOTUS case, we did some moot hearing, which is like a trial run basically of the oral arguments. And the panel, I did mine at Georgetown Law, or my attorney did his at Georgetown Law. It was an invite only thing. It was really, really cool. But our panel was like the head of the ACLU, Nancy Pelosi's attorney, a lot of people that are very involved in government business. And Nancy Pelosi's attorney, I can't remember his name, but he's also kind of the attorney that oversees the whole Senate and stuff. And he told all of them, here's what I'm telling everybody. And this was before the decision came out, was have a personal page, have an official page. Don't mix the two. If you mix the two, you are going to be in trouble, and you're going to be spending a lot of money on federal litigation because you're just creating problems for yourself.
Makes sense. Okay. Well, keep me updated. I had to have you on. Good talking to you. I've seen some of your stuff out there, videos. And yeah, thank you very much for taking the time. And I'll send you the link when I get this edited together. Thank you so much.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me. It was great talking to you.